So we thank you so much, Mom, for doing this interview. You have an amazing story, and we are so blessed to be able to take the time to gain some wisdom from you and your life story. So tell us a little bit about your story about where were you born? How did you grow up? Give us a little bit of that person. I know many people know you to be very wise. And so we would love to hear a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, first of all, I thank God for giving me this opportunity to be here today and to tell my stories, because it's something that people see for years and never know that it's a story behind a story. I was born here in Buffalo, New York in the early 50s, and I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. My mother and my father, they had a lot of issues going on when we was a small child. I have 4 siblings, 3 siblings besides myself. And my mother, it was a time when the women at those times, they had it hard raising children by themselves. My father was away in a service. And so whatever happened between my mother and my father, she ended up putting us in Our Lady of, I think it's Lewis out in Lackawanna. Anyways, out in Lackawanna on Ridge Road. And I was 6 months old at the time. And my other 2 siblings were a little bit older. My brother, at the time when she put us in a home, he was, my mother was pregnant with him, but she didn't know at the time. So she ended up raising him, but she did not raise me and my other 2 sisters. And it led to a really down life of rejection, because once you're put away, rejection starts in the womb of a mother. That's where the rejection starts at. But even when afterwards, when the child is born, that spirit of rejection will follow them. And I was 6 months old, and from that moment, in that time, it was nothing but rejection in my life. You know what I'm saying? And to those out there that's listening, I want you to hear, maybe my story is not as intense as yours or great as yours, but just hear how the enemy used rejection to destroy people's lives. I often say, we're born with the angel that God gives us to protect us, and it's a demon there waiting to destroy our path at all times. And he came with a spirit of rejection from my mother and from my father, because as we grew up and my father came home, we went from house to house, place to place, hardly eating. And I remember one story my sister told us about, we were between families and living here and living there, and how we were put up in the attic with no clothes on, sleeping on beds. And remember that story, flowers in the attic? Okay. You can relate to that. And that my older sister, she remembers more, and she would tell me other stories that had happened. But anyway, as I go on for the time's sake, so we went from home to home to home, and I found stability in my life, I guess, when I was like 3 or 4, when I was able to live with some relatives one time, and I felt safe there. But then I was snatched away again because my father, I know he's dead and gone now, and I'm not trying to put his name out. I'm not even going to tell you his name, but because it happened, and it's more than not to so many families, and he didn't pay the money. Give people the money to take care of his 3 daughters. And so it was constantly, come get your kids. And we were dragged from house to house to house, relationship, families, whatever. And I remember when I was like 4 years old, I found, some stability with my mother's godmother, whom I was named after, Mamie. And I found so much stability in this woman's life, you know what I mean? But then we were snatched away again. Can you imagine going through your life just constantly being snatched away? And that's how the enemy works with that rejection. He never wants you to have a settledness that you can be firm and get yourself together to do God's will. At that time, you don't know about God's will, but it's always God's will. And so then finally, my father came out the service. He was out of the service, and he met this woman. I'm not going to call no names, but he met this woman, and she took us in, his 3 daughters in, and they started living together. But that was from the time I was 6 years old till I was maybe like 14, was some of the worst times of my life, because out of hurt, and this is what I'm getting ready to say, because this happens more than not. People treat people the way they're treated. And if you have a person, she was taking care of my father's children. She had 1 daughter herself, and she was taking care of my father's children, myself and my 2 sisters. And he was not doing her right. Come on now. We gotta think about the thing. He wasn't doing her right. And so she started mistreating us. And she had very long fingernails. I tell people her fingernails were so long, and was a way where sometimes my sister would get mad and tell my daddy what happened when she wasn't home, when he wasn't home. And she would come up under us sneakily and take her hands and just dig her fingernails down into our flesh until it started bleeding. I mean, we would go to school with marks all over our body where she would just take them, long fingernails and just gouge them into our flesh and dare us to say anything, because when he left, and he was always gone, she was going to do it again. And a lot of stuff. I was a young girl going to junior high school. I was going to school and didn't have underclothes and didn't have things to wear, half eating. But yet, I can say, I'm going to stop right now and say, to God be the glory, because he's seeing me today. And I thank God for that. And as time went on, to make the long story short, I can go into these stories so deeply. I'm going to give you top service today for the time's sake, but it's a depth into everything I'm saying today. And so at 14, I got raped. First of all, I didn't tell my son this, but before I got raped, I got gang raped. Okay? And no pregnancy came from that. And I was afraid to tell them, because when I was a young girl and things would happen to me, when men would try to touch me and everything, I would go to my mother and my father and tell them, and they would tell me I was the liar. And they would hit me, and the person be standing right there, and they'll hit me and tell me to go somewhere. So I lost confidence. I had no confidence in an adult. I went through years carrying this hurt and pain because no one would listen to me. I remember an incident in that when I was maybe like about 6 then, 5 or 6. And every week my dad got paid. They would have card parties and drinking and people over. And I remember one time, this thing put hate in my heart. Hear what I'm saying? For my mother and father that day, because why did you leave me unprotected like that? And I remember they went to the store. This guy, I ain't never seen him before. He said, watch our kid, me, out by myself in the house. Watch her till we come back from the store. And they all went to the store to get their liquor and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm sitting on the couch like, no, little girl, like 5, 6 years old, little girl sitting on the couch. And he gets a dictionary out. And he opens the page up to find a man's private part. And he said, do you know what this, and he pulled me to him and said, you know what this is? And he kept putting his hand on it. And then he zipped his pants down and took my hand and tried to make me touch him. And I remember something was all wrapped up or something. But anyway, at that moment, my mother and father came home and he let me go. And I ran into the room. And they said, what's wrong? I said, nothing. I was so hurt as a child. So hurt because you left me unprotected. That's all. I knew that much. You left me with somebody. Now, it was a matter of maybe 3 or 4 minutes. That man would have totally raped me. You see what I'm trying to say? That's what he was going for. And I'm going to say, it's just this kind of stuff, constant rejection, constant feeling like you're alone. And so that led up, and so stuff kept on happening, the drinking, the partying, whatever. And when I got like 11 years old, I got to the point, my sisters, there was a lot of fighting in the house, and my older sister, she always tried to be our protector. And so she was constantly fighting my stepsister and constantly fighting my mother to protect us because daddy wouldn't do anything. Come on here, somebody. I hope somebody hear me today. And so she was trying to be the protector fighting. But it got to the point that she had to go to a home, and then my other sister, she was always running away, so they put her in a home. So I was the only one left there. I was the only one never ran away. I would just stay there because I had nowhere to go, and I would just stay there. And it got to a point that dad left her daughter left her, and dad had left her, and everybody has gone with just me and her in the house. And the landlord said we had to go. I was living in the house. And now this time I had got raped by this older man, and I was so afraid to tell them because they always, now this is what I'm trying to say. They said, well, why you didn't say anything? Okay, every time I came to you and tried to tell you something, you said I was a liar. You see, how can I come to you? And then exactly when I told them what happened, I didn't tell them right away because I was afraid because of what happens, right? And when I did tell them what they said, you're a liar. Who's that boy? Who's that boy? You're a liar. And what are you going to do with that? And so after that's why I didn't say anything to myself. But anyway, as time went on, I had my child and everything. But before that, we lived in this house, and I was like 11 years old before the first incident of rape came. And I was so hurt because of all the abuse and stuff we were taking. I'm not even talking about it all right now. We don't have the time. And we wouldn't eat. It was just something, sleeping on floors. I mean, oh my God, if I could start going now, I'll start in tears. I don't want to go there right now. And I was in my bed. I was like 11 years old. And all of a sudden, and I said to my son, I said, I understand how that spirit that comes against young adults and young children and teenagers that want them or make them feel like they need to get rid of their mothers and their fathers, because I dealt with it. Head on, I dealt with that spirit. As a young girl, 11 years old, that spirit came upon me, that murdering spirit came upon me and I would just sit in my bed night after night. It had to be through a summertime because I wasn't in school. So it had to be like through a summer, out of school time. And I would lay in that bed and just every night, just figure out what I can do to get rid of her and things of that nature, right? And only thing that stopped me from pulling off that thing. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. This was real. I mean, it was like a fetishness. You know what I mean? What can I do? Every night I couldn't wait to go to bed to think about what I wanted to do. That's how deep it was. Only thing that stopped me was I had nobody to help me bury her body. Where was I going to bury the body? Come on here. I understand what these children feel. That spirit makes them feel. Because I felt it. And it was only the grace of God in my life that I didn't go through with, because I wouldn't be sitting here today. Then I found out one of my other sisters, she had the same idea, but she went away to her home. She was thinking the same thing. Just think about what would happen if we had got ourselves together and thought about that thing. You hear about all these other kids doing this. It could have happened to me and her because of the abuse and because of the shame and because of the hurt and because of going through things. But I thank God today that he was with me and he did not allow it. I'm just letting you know these things happen and people try to hide them in their life. But anyway, as time go on, I was 12 years old in the same place. The room that I was in, a man had died in that room. And I know that spirit of murder lingered there. And I was sleeping in that room. People don't understand. We don't go into that area. That's another whole area we got to open up. At another time, we can open up that area up. But spirits attached themselves to houses. And that man he died in that house. And that spirit, I think, and I was in that room and I had an encounter with that spirit. And that spirit was just making me now want to be what it happened to him. You understand? But God, in his mercy, he would not allow that. And as time went on, I finally, went on, and my sister, Daisy, she got an apartment, and I was still going from house to house to house living. Didn't have nowhere to go, because after my stepmother, I was the only one left in the house with her. And she was in a nervous breakdown. We had no gas. We had no water. We had no lights. The landlord was putting us out. I was barely eating. I had got raped by this older man. I was so hungry. I would go to the stores and steal packets of Oreo cookies and an orange just to eat through a day, just to get me through. I would be so hungry and I was so thin. And then finally I was able to go and live with a woman that I called my stepmother for a while. And then I'm still to hear that spirit come again, and trying to, molest me again. And her husband, me and her daughter and I were very good friends. We had been friends for years. We were very good friends. And we was in the bed one night and he gonna crawl over her. That's how much this lust spirit was in him. He gonna crawl over her to get to me. You know, and it was, I said, God, what is going on here? All I want to do is live and be a young girl. And I was never a young girl. I was always fighting and trying to defend for my life and defend for what I had to do. And so I want to encourage you out there, those that feel like you always have to fight for everything. It happens sometime. But the thing about it, you're still standing right now. And you have a story to tell as well. And so as that went on, and then the young lady was keeping me saying, well, you got to leave, you know. and her and her husband fighting about this, it was always, and I started feeling like, that I'm always a problem to people. I'm always in people's ways and everything, And so as time went on, so I had my child, and my sister and we started living together, and I got to the age where I first received Jesus Christ. And I was 17 years old when I first received him. But at 12 years old, he actually called my name. I know I had to go back and say this because I often allude to it now in my life when I'm thinking about things or going through things. And at 12 years old, I literally heard the voice of God call my name in that same room I was in. And I was upstairs by myself, and I was sewing something to go outside. And I heard him say, Mamie. And I didn't say anything because I was just sewing. And I heard him say, Mamie. I heard it. This as clear as day. And don't tell me God don't talk to his people. And he said, Mamie. I said, what? Like that? Because I'm thinking it was a person. That's how vivid his voice was. I said, what? He said, come and see. And I got up off the bed, walking through the house, trying to find him. He wasn't there. Informed. And my sister came to see, we started talking. But I want to say that because where I'm at now, God had a purpose in my life for all that stuff. You know what I mean? And I know I go through things right now, and I still say, God, have I came to see what you told me to come to see yet? I don't know have I got there yet? I don't think I have. I think it's still something he needs me to see. Every time he take me around the corner, I got to see something, right? But then I would see in the Bible in different places how he called that. He told me to come and see. And I think that come and see is the purpose that he had in our life. And so I got up, me and my sister, we got up. We got our own apartments and everything. And then as time went on, and I got saved the first time, but I didn't stay saved. I was 17 years old. And this is when I had my first encounter with God. I was 17 years old. My children's father, he had a nervous breakdown. And so I had not slept for 3 days. And when the third day, we got him to the hospital. And I was so tired that I took some sleeping pills. My father's girlfriend, I was still with my father now. He had a more stable girlfriend. And so I was staying with them. And she gave me some sleeping pills. She said, well, just take this shit and go to sleep, right? I went right to sleep. I was so tired. But in the middle of the night, I looked at a light. This light came into my room. It was so bright. This light was so bright, you couldn't even look at it. I know now it was Jesus coming to me. And when this light, it filled my door up, like it was such a beam. It filled, like I looked at it, it was just so bright. And then when I looked at it and turned away, it had gone. And I started throwing up all that medication. See, I took too much. I took too much and I was dying. And he came and, it's God awesome. And he came and saved me. And after that incident, I felt this. Oh, I gotta say this one. Y'all bear with me, okay? Because when you open up these things, it's so. These things that happened into my life when I was a young girl, I understand them so much right now. But then, why has all this stuff happened to me? In that process of that light, I had a 3 or 4 day encounter with God. Of his Holy Spirit. I had never felt it before. I always try to be around him, but I didn't know what I was doing. And I remember in the bed, after I had that encounter of that light, in the bed, at night, I felt this. Now, y'all know when I believe this story, but I don't care. It's true. And I'm going to tell you, okay, that's my story. Anyway, but it was a light. After the light, every night for 3 nights, when I got in my bed, I would feel this spirit come into my room. And it was trying to impress and get into me. Then I would feel this other spirit coming into my room. People don't understand the forces that we fight with today. I didn't understand it. And I thought everybody got saved this way, right? I didn't know. And I would feel these spirits and it would just like and I would be so afraid. It kept trying to the enemy was trying to possess my body. At 17 years old. And I would feel these spirits coming in the room. Anyway, that third night, I was so tired. Now, I had not slept 7 days because now I had 3 more days of encounters with this, right? Couldn't go to sleep. And so on that day, I was so tired on that third day after I took the sleeping pills. I was so tired that third day that I felt them both when they came. I felt the spirit of the enemy, and I felt the spirit of God. I couldn't call it at the moment because I didn't know what it was, but I felt them when they came. I said, oh my God, but I was so tired that I said, if you ever want to get me, just get me. God, I was just tired. Couldn't fight. And all of a sudden I felt this other one is trying to press into me. All of a sudden I felt like it was a fight. You ever feel like you on the ground and you got 2 people fighting over you, but you on the ground, but you feeling all the effects of it, but they fighting. This is exactly, if I can explain to you, this was exactly what I felt in the spiritual realm. I felt the fighting. And I was laying there and I was getting scared. I felt they're actually fighting. And all of a sudden, I felt like something came over me and said, shh. I didn't know which one it was. But when that happened, it was like waters that were just rushing off through me, just off through my head to my toe. And I was just moaning and groaning, went to sleep moaning. It was the Spirit of God had won that battle for me. You hear me? I mean, I can go into more than I'm going to keep on moving because I'm out of time. If y'all want me to talk about it, call me. Okay, I'm telling you, I got a lot to tell here. But anyway, so as I went on, but I didn't have anybody to, I tried to find churches to go to. I didn't have nobody to help me. So I kind of moved away. And then 2 years went by. And I got married and everything. And then I came to know Jesus Christ as my personal Savior in 1969. That's when I really became to know him. And that took me on my journey from in life and in salvation in Jesus' name.
Wow. So that is an amazing story. With with all the young ladies out here today who may have experienced some of the things that you have dealt with, what could they do? Listening, because some of them have experienced what you did. What can you say to them in this season of their life when they feel there's no hope? They may have went and told people about their experiences, but they've been told you're not telling the truth. What could you share to them to help them?
For what I know now, then I didn't know. At that time when I would go to people, I thought my adults were my protectors. And this is why kids fall. This is why they get into drugs and stuff, because they don't feel protected sometimes. Now, I ain't say all the time, just sometimes. But I would say to them, you're out there and you feeling like you're in a place that people don't believe, whatever. Find God. Find go to your closet, go to your bedroom somewhere and sit down and say, God, I need a father. I need a mother. He said that in his word, right? About the father and the mother. He said, and then talk and say, God, I'm so lonely. That's what I would find myself. I'm so lonely. I don't know what to do. Not knowing I was talking to him, right? And, but I would say this, trust God. And the enemy is going at you like this because you got a purpose in your life. And you just got to know that no matter when your mother and father fail you, God said, I will pick you up. And he was the one that gave you life. And I don't know, he was the one chose the family. You wonder why, okay, God, this wasn't a good choice, but he's the one that chose our families for us. We didn't choose them on our own. But the author said this one thing to you, young ladies and young men. When I look back at my life now, and I know it was for I'm going to say everything was for my good, but it was for my good because it helped me to understand and it helped me to have a spirit of compassion against other people. When people tell people that, oh, that's not true or that can't happen, I stand back and say, oh, yes, it can. You see, because the enemy don't play fair. He comes into the realm. Every time a new body come into this realm, he's already after your life. He was after your life. When you came out of your mother's womb, he was after your life right then and there to find out how to destroy you. And especially if you was born a prophet or one of the already born a prophet. Because prophets are born. Y'all know prophets are born, right? They can't be made. And he gets senses of stuff and he got to destroy you. I remember a little girl, I didn't know I was into the prophetic. When a little girl, I would go to my dad and mom and tell him, oh, get out of here. Oh, you just talk, you're dreaming and you're dreamer and whatever. I'll be dreaming stuff and stuff be happening. I would tell them stuff would happen. They start calling me a witch and all kind of, now even when I got into be a teenager they would call me a witch because I would just know, I wasn't no witch. God would just give me stuff and I didn't know how to channel it. I had nobody to mentor me. You see, but I look back at my life now, God did that in my life so I would be able to mentor people. He got to have pioneers and the pioneers got to suffer more. And you might be a pioneer. You might be somebody that God wants to raise up on the hard side of the mountain that you can be that life and that breath and that lemonade for somebody else. And I'm not going to tell you that it don't hurt. It does hurt. I'm not going to tell you that rejection don't feel good. Rejection don't feel good. I had a life of rejection. That spirit of rejection will follow you everywhere you go. And as soon as it's like you got your head above the water, here it come again with somebody else. Soon you think you can trust something else, here it come again with something else. But you got to know that God's got your path set for you. It was set for you before you were in your mother's womb. We just don't know the path. That's why you couldn't be taken out. That's why you still got your right mind. That's why you still standing. So I will say to you today, just find a place for God. Say, Jesus, I don't know what you made me for, but help me become what you made me to be, in Jesus' name.
Wow, that's good and that's powerful. And how did you navigate being a wife with all the experiences you had? How did that did you feel that had an effect on you as a wife?
I think so, a little bit, because my kids don't even know this. Maybe some of them do. I think I shared a little bit, but I always felt like I was always failing them because, I don't know if it's because of some of the stuff I went through. Me and my sisters, we made a pact. When I say a pact, like we made an agreement. When we all got saved around the same time, we said, that stuff we went through, our kids ain't going through that. That stuff what happened, we're going to do all we can to prevent that. My kids ain't going to be getting pregnant at 14 and raping 14, 13. And you know what? God blessed us and that happened. But as a mother myself, I was always feeling like I was inadequate for my children. Even though I was doing things and surviving. And also I want to say this to you young mothers. It comes a time in your life that you have those children and the father may walk away or you don't have a support group. Then you go into what you call survival mode. And survival mode is when you just do what you can. But at the same time, you be trying to find outlets for yourself so you can survive. And that's when, if you're not in Christ, we find ourselves getting sugar daddies and doing things, having all kind of men coming in because we don't understand how to navigate the survival mode. You understand? And it's like we want to be happy too. But you have these children and you find some mothers, they just throw it. Now, one thing I can say, I never let my kids stay anywhere. They had 1 or 2 babysitters and that was it. Because I understood what happened to me when I was a young girl. And we made that vow. No, either my sisters watched them or I had a couple of church folks. That was it. You know what I mean? Or either when they got grown, I said, thank God I got a 12-year-old now, right? And you can't be leaving your kids with everybody. You can't just trust uncles and people. Even, I don't care if they young girl or boy, you can't but we be looking for outlets. And those outlets are destroying our next generation. Because we're not watching, because we're trying to, I need some freedom too, you see? And now I remember when I had my children, I did all I can for them, but I never felt, I remember one time that I went through the season, they was little up, maybe like 7, 8, 9, they was coming up a little bit, but I was watching my children go to school and different things and not have things for other children had and, we didn't live in no nice house and it wasn't bad, but we was okay. But and I felt, God, I'm just inadequate. And I remember one season in my life that I said, you know what? I was going to call social service and tell them to take on my children because I was an unfit mother. That's how bad this thing was. I would go to my bed night after night with this tormenting demon. And I don't know when it left. When it's like that thing I had told y'all about what happened when I wanted to kill my stepmother. I don't know when it happened and I don't know when it left, but God did this because he knew what I was going through. It's times in our life God will take things out of our hands. That's how the Father that he is. Isn't that something? He said, I am a compassionate high priest. And everything I was feeling, even though he didn't deal with it, but when he laid on that cross and died, why thou forsake me, he felt everything, the whole sins of the world came upon him. I was there. You were there. You understand? But we don't see that. We don't see that. He's like, he God. But he had to come to that portion to understand. He could not say he's a compassionate high priest and don't have no compassion. And he was my compassionate high priest in both of those things because he did not allow me to make that a mistake. Just think about it. I have 7 children. Who will take 7 children at one time? My kids have been all over the city, all over the nation. But I was thinking one thing. I was failing them. And then God got me together. Then I started going back. I went to business school. Then I went to nursing school and things just got better. But I was at a time in my life that things wasn't like that. You see?
So you were just saying how you went through all that in your past. You had 7 children and you went to business school.
Mm-hmm. After they got all up and everybody was in school, then I went back to business school.
Like how were you able mentally to, because today, so many people can't handle 1 child. Like, how were you able to do 7 from all different experiences, how they came, then not having the time to do the things you may want to do? if you could give us like 5 minutes in there, because that's mine. But I don't even think people know that it's possible today to do.
Well, the older people, they had 15, 18 kids. They did it, right? But my story would be that as y'all were little, I did little works here and there. But as everybody started getting older, going to school, I didn't start going back to business school till everybody was in school. And it was around the same time. And the schedules kind of worked together, so it wasn't as hard, but I guess, well, you got 7 kids, right? What you gonna do? You gotta have a program. And I everybody had a part doing something, you know what I mean? But the main thing, I was very concerned that they were okay. So I wasn't going to just leave you all there by yourself and walk away. Anyway, but it was just God. It was just God. People would always tell me, "How you do that?" I would go to the store sometime and people that have 1 or 2 kids, they be clowning. I have 3 or 4 of mine with me. This be just as nice. I got something on my side that you ain't doing. And that was my little whoopee strip. Okay. I have to say that because they don't want to do that now. But see, we didn't play that. We went to stores. If I took my kids anywhere, they were well mannered because we wasn't going to have you up here jumping off of stuff and acting clown and telling me, hitting me. Oh no, hitting me and all this kind of stuff, telling me no and all that kind of stuff. No, we wasn't going to have that today, honey. Okay. And
that is true.
But it's the way you train them.
Mm-hmm.
You see, you train them and you give them what they need. And that's the one thing I want to tell every mother out there and father: don't train all your kids the same. You got to find out their natures. See, I knew every one of my children, nature, the things that, I knew one of them. Everybody, my daughter Pam, she's going to be with the Lord now. But everybody said, why you give Pam so much freedom? Because Pam needed freedom. She was one of the people you could not tie down, because the more you tie down, the worse that she got. And they would say, well, why you let her do so? They didn't understand that. But and it was somehow that I didn't have to do that much to it. But everybody, I watched everybody and what they needed. And I tried to give them that rope. All I had to do was give my son Nathan's food, and he was happy. Okay, give him a food, and give him a little something to hit on. And I have some, every child,
Wow.
And I think the more, I don't know, it's the more that I can say that you just know you have to do this, and you put yourself in the position you just do this. You see, and everybody had their things they had to do. They had their I remember when they started wanting things. I said, I tell you what, I cannot give you. Remember, those sneakers started coming out. Those $70, $80 sneakers started coming out. Everybody, when I said, I tell you what, you meet me halfway. And them boys would get out there and do paper routes, clean snow. And when they got their $35 together, I said, okay, now I'll save it. That's how you have to do. And these parents now, they give them everything. And these kids ain't worth 2 cents. They give them everything. They don't want them, and if you say anything to them, they ready to knock you out. They don't have this village raising the child anymore. You should understand this was lacking, but this is what helped me. I was firm, and yet I tried to watch what they needed. And I know I made many mistakes. You see, I made many mistakes as a mother, but I know I loved my children. You see what I'm saying? And I look back now, some things I could have done different, but I didn't have a woman, or a mentor to help me raise my children. It was just God. It was just God helping me, So that's all. I mean, it's hard to say too much about it because I just put myself into it and had to do what I had to do, And
I remember when we were young, you always kept us in church. You always made sure that we went to church, and you gave us. How did you balance before everybody went to school? How did you balance? Okay, we're going to church, and I'm going to study each of them individually and deal with things you went through in your past. And then sensing this call to be a minister and things like that. Like, how did you emotionally handle that season where you didn't have the help?
One day at a time. I just prayed. I prayed a lot. That was my key. I prayed a lot. You know what I'm talking about? And I didn't worry about whatever I didn't need to worry about at that moment. God would do things. I let him just do what he had to do. And it's hard to describe that in one session a day, but because you can break it out in many sessions, but when I had to be in church, I was in church. When I had to take care of my kids, I was taking care of my kids. Whenever I had to, and I had desires to do things, and I would talk with my husband about it. Sometimes he said yes, sometimes he said no. I mean, I just took it one day at a time, and try to bring much peace as I could in the household, talking about in it, And I want to say the thing about a lot of time, you women, that you have to understand that is that in ministry, And I know this is not part of our thing today, but I just want to say this because it's important. In ministry, if you're married, you cannot just look over your husband like he's nobody. It's very important. And you might have been called to do many great things, but you still got a husband. If you feel that you can't submit to him in any kind of way, then you don't need him. You should not have married him. That's what I mean. Forgive me. You should not have gotten married if you wanted to just be a free. Like Paul said, don't get married. You get married, you're going to have more responsibility. And when you in that pulpit and when you're doing things for God, then you and in Christ, they're neither male or female. But when you come out of that pulpit, you have to go and give respect to your husband at your home. And a lot of marriages have broken up because of disrespect of their home. And I know some of them, that man or that woman, whatever side it's on, can be held in high waters in your home trying to stop you. And that's when you have to pray. But I just wanted to say that because a lot of the time they feel that God don't call me and you can't tell me nothing. That is wrong. You understand? You see? That's wrong. And if you got an issue, it was time that God had given me to do things and my husband would say no. And I would go to pray. I would go pray. I said, well, God, I said, if you gave me to do this, I wouldn't go to him and tell him, well, God, put my hands on my hip. I would go pray. I said, God said, no, if you give me to do this, you got to touch him. And just as sure as God, anything God gave me to do, he will always do with him. It's the way you do things, you see, and keep respect. And when God brings respect, you bring respect into your home, you bring respect to your ministry. And it's same with the husband. You can't be around here just treating your wife all kind of crazy ways. The word of God said, you give her respect and love her like the church, and then you won't be hindered. You see?
That's good. Well, listen, real quick before we let you give us a little bit about how God transitioned you into using the rejection as a part of your ministry to be a blessing as a leader, as a mentor to many people. Tell us, if you can, in like 3 minutes, just talk to us about your 7 kids that you had. And
again?
Just a quick overview. You can give their names, and you can put me last because I know I'm the youngest. But just just let everybody know a little bit about your 7 kids.
Well, my oldest he's in Arizona, and he's an awesome man of God, and I love him. He's one of those called sergeant spirits, take control sergeant spirit and knock people around spirit, And then I have Dina, my second oldest daughter. She's an awesome psalmist, a minister, prophet, and it's awesome, in worship, her and her husband. And then I have Marie. She's here in Buffalo, New York, another woman that's worshiper and love the Lord. And then I have David, a musician and this multi-talented. And then I have Pam, she passed away, but she was an awesome worship dancer, worship leader, minister as well. And then I have Norman, and he's into a lot of IT and stuff. All my kids are very talented in doing their own thing. Then I have Dave. If I miss anybody, come on, I'm counting down here. Then I have Nathan, and my last one, I'm sitting here with him today. Awesome. I got to say a little bit about this young man here as well. And since we're doing this today, and he was the one that gave me the most pain in birth. 10 pounds, 10 ounces.
Oh, wow.
Come out from the time he was little.
Wow.
Just always on me doing something. Kept me in check with God. You hear me? That's all I got to say. And the enemy tried to take his life when he was 10 months old twice. From 10 months to like 18 months, the enemy tried to take his life because of what he's doing today. And when he was small, he had so much pent up energy in him for the ministry. He would just go around making paper stuff and doing. He had so much, and to see him today, you understand why, because he had all this pent up talents in him and that God has given him. But God had walked him into him being such an awesome, and I'm so proud of him being an awesome minister, worship leader. You know what I mean? Learn instruments by yourself. And it makes me proud. And I look back on my life and awesome grandchildren I have from each one of them. And I look back on my life and I say, God, I'm so glad that I didn't make that choice to give my children away. It was hurting, but I'm so glad that it was you, Father, that helped me weather this storm. Like I said, I wasn't perfect and I did many mistakes, but you kept them and you brought them out to be awesome women and men of God. You see, but it was prayer. You understand? It wasn't me. It was God just guiding and leading me. And when I couldn't do it, hear me. When you can't do it, God will take it out your hand. and he will help you through it.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, we love you too, man. You did a great job with us, and all of us are good. None of us went to jail.
That's what I'm talking about.
You did a good job, and I think many people should, because sometimes we see the person in working in their gifts of the Spirit and stuff, but we never get to hear the person's journey. So I'm thankful that you took time out of your busy schedule to do this, for not just for the many people who's going to be watching, but even for your family to for years to come, your grandkids to watch this and be like, oh, that was my grandma or my great grandma, and so it's awesome. So in this last segment, if you could kind of help us understand how to take the rejection and use it in your call, use it to be a blessing to people. How to take all of that pain and not use it to kill yourself and to hide it from people, but to use it to pour into people.
Wow, I have much time. I don't know. It's I do know, but I said that's what we say. I don't know, but I do know. But I guess we started. I can say I started. I was always a compassionate person. That's why I went to nursing. I just had to be a nurse no matter what. Okay, because God had made me a compassionate person in spite of what I felt. But let me back up a little bit so you can understand where I'm coming from now. When I was a young woman, I went through so much. It made me bitter. You become bitter. Whether you know it or not, you become bitter because of what all that. It's just, can you imagine all that pent up rejection, that pent up hurt? And it's just in your soulish realm. It's just there laying. And a lot of times, I'm going to tell you out there, a lot of times you see people and you say, that's such a mean person, or that's such an angry person, or, critical person. It's a story behind stories. And people don't tell their story. They just go through life. And they know as soon as they open their mouth, another rejection. So they holds it in. And I remember by the time I was 24 years old, I had went through so much, even with the children's father, just constant rejection. It always came to me. And, I was about 24, 25 years old. And all of a sudden one day, I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden I got this spirit came upon me. I got tired of people just pushing me down. I would let people talk about me, wouldn't say nothing, just go away and cry. And all of a sudden this day, like a lion rolled up in me, and I wasn't taking no more off of nobody. And so all this bitterness that I was feeling started coming out the way I was talking, the way I was acting, how I would address things, you see? And I got to the point that if before you came after me, you was on that wall. I'm putting you on that wall first. You should see, because I didn't know how to let it go the way I'm supposed to let it go. And I got tired. I was 24 years old. I remember I had just had you, I think, from around that time or something. Then, it's like one day I said, I'm not going to say what you want to say. You open your mouth for me. I'll pin you to the wall. I got very sharp with people. Mom, it was like I was trying to fight, get all that 20 something years out of me that was going on with me, that I wouldn't allow nobody to hurt me again. And so I started acting out. Hear me what I'm saying to y'all today. You start acting out, and that's not who I was. And for years, I carried that. For years, I'm talking, hear me, in ministry, in the church, knowing God, carrying that spirit, that bitterness that I didn't call bitterness. I was calling a defense mechanism, but it was bitterness that I never had nobody to help me. And I'm not trying to say this is an excuse. It's not. I realize now God let nobody help me because he wanted me where I was at right now to understand what's going on into other people's lives. And I would chop a person up so fast because it was like, you want a piece of me? I'm not going there with you. And I got very choppy and so as time went on, and I would just cut people off, and just like, because what happens when a spirit enters you and makes you feel a way, it started off as just I wasn't gonna let nobody talk about me. But see, I opened the door. When you open up them doors, they're gonna keep on coming in. And the enemy gonna keep on adding to it. So when I opened that door, he just kept on adding to it, to the point that I wasn't even thinking about how I was acting. I wasn't even thinking about what I was saying to people. I was just being Mamie. Okay. I thought I was just being, you ain't doing all that. I'm this tough person that was trying to do with all this, what happened to me when I was from a baby up to that day that I decided to be tough. And I didn't realize, and through that, I hurted people. I could have addressed something different and you don't even think about, I'm talking about in the church now. I'm not talking about not saved. I'm talking about saved and unsaved. And we don't think about what our past have caused us to be. And we can't find ourselves just acting out. You say our kids is acting out. We be acting out too. And that's why you find relationships sometime and that man can't love that wife. He loves her, but he can't because of what it's the story behind the story. You understand? Or that wife can't trust her husband. He can be the best man in the world. He can be at home 23 hours a day. And so that 1 hour he go out is a problem because of where she was. Men always failed her. And it's that segment of not trusting and that rejection. Rejection is one of the spirit that almost 90% of people, I would say 100% of people have dealt with, but some so intense that some even commit suicide. Some so intense that made them a total person who they were born to be until you come to know Jesus Christ as your personal savior. And it made me bitter. I was bitter, didn't even know it. I was like in my 50s before I realized, okay, something got to change here. Before God started dealing with me. Then I got a little older and then God really started dealing with me about this. Because you know what? You can start doing something habitually and don't even pay attention how it's affecting nobody else. And I'm hoping this is helping somebody. To the way you're acting and what you're saying and that thing saying, well, this is just me. That is not you. That is what life has made you. That is what the enemy has made you to be because of your hurt and pain. That's not you. And that's not who you even want to be. You even get tired of yourself sometime. You look at yourself sometime. Why am I acting like this? That's not who you are. And that's not who Christ had made you to be for purpose. And so as I went on, and then Christ, and I grew up then in the spiritual realm a little bit, and then God, I'm going to go through, I went to refuge for a while, and I thank God for Apostle. He was such a blessing to my life, and I served another apostle for a while. Then God launched me into my own ministry. But the thing about me being launched into my own ministry, I had to serve first, and I had to learn first. I remember my son gave me a little tidbit of how the Lord launched him into his single ministry. And I remember I was at this church, and after I had got married to Elder Jones, he's gone through the door now, and this church kept saying, come on, take the young ladies and point to them and whatever. See, you never know. You be trying to your mind is on one thing. God got something else on his mind at all times. And they got at me for weeks and weeks. I said, okay, let's have all the young girls here on Saturday morning. We're going to start this purity class, whatever it is y'all want to have, okay? And them girls came that one. We had a wonderful prayer meeting. I ain't seen them girls no more. You know what God wanted out of me? To launch me into my prayer ministry. And I'm here fighting because I didn't want to be and do like the place where I was at. I'm used to a certain thing and I had to go. We got to learn how to survive in the climate that God put us in. And a lot of people can't survive. And I wouldn't do nothing. I wouldn't be everyone be over there, refuge. And I didn't want to be there. And he told me that, and he launched my prayer ministry 18 months straight. And the pastor there, Pastor Spike, he's gone on to be with the Lord. And I'm going to call his name. That was all. He seen in me and pushed me when I didn't even want to go. He would push me in the word. He would push me, say, Evangelist Jones. He'll push me and push me on the radio. And we got that prayer. It was for the women of the church. He knew, not that the girls, but that wasn't what he wanted. He used that to get me in there. And for 18 months straight, I did not miss a day until he shifted me again. And that's how I launched out into the prayer ministry, you see. And through the prayer ministry, the spirit of intercession, that's where you birth out your pain. You see, that's where you birth out other people's pain. That's where you become compassionate. And I say this all the time that people see, you don't have to be a prophet to be an intercessor. But you don't have to be a prophet. Intercessors don't have to be a prophet. But a prophet must be an intercessor. And this is what God was birthing me out to. And all this stuff that I had walked through all those years was still in me. But now he was through the intercessory, he was able to temper them down that I wouldn't see myself, but I was able to see myself and others that I could minister to them. That's what all he wanted out of me, but I was fighting it to and fro, you know. And so we did that. And then for time's sake, then I end up, and he told me to move to Arizona. I moved to Arizona only because I was faithful doing what he wanted me to do in Buffalo, New York. And that's a story I need to tell y'all by yourself how that happened, because the steps and things that I had to do with the rejection, I would be pushed aside, all kind of stuff, serving, just like pushing a background, no name, and put other people up. And I would go many times with tears in my eyes, but I kept on serving. I just kept on serving. And I feel like sooner or later, God, I don't know what you want. But when he told me to do something, I laid everything aside and said, whatever that God has saved me to do, that's what I'm doing this time in my life. And see, that's what he wanted. When he lifted me up out of Buffalo, New York, you know what the words he told me? He said to me, because you did not put your ministry over what I told you to do. He said, now I'm going to relocate you and give you another work to do. Now, he told me a lot that day, but them words I will never forget. And then I found myself 6 months, almost about 6, 7 months later in Arizona. And from there, it was just nothing about prayer ministries, prophetic stuff. Just keep on moving, just keep on moving. Like I said, I don't have the time now to go into everything. And then I start writing my books and different things. If y'all want to know more about my story, I have the first book I wrote was A Real Story Behind Pain. And then I wrote the book on understanding the power of darkness, and I wrote the book on the prophetic, understanding the prophetic mantle in people's lives. So these are the 3 books I have out now. So I thank God for that, and God is just so awesome. And he gave me to write those things, and I wrote out of my pain of what happened. And like I said, I can't really sit and talk now, but I know this one thing, that everything that I had to walk through and everything that you're walking through in this life is because God got a purpose for you. All that pain that you dealt with, all the things that you're going through with, it's for purpose. You're saying, God, I want to be a woman and a man of purpose. Well, deal with the pain. You got to deal with the pain. The word of God said we got to know him in the power of the resurrection, in the fellowship of his suffering. And people don't want to deal with the second part of that. For you to understand, for God to use you like he wants to use you, you got to understand the pain. And you got to even release yourself to say, Father, I'm going through all of this and I just get tired. People just keep on walking away from me. Every time you tell me to do something, things seem to fall flat. This is because the enemy, that same spirit that was when you was born, when God gave you your personal angel, that demon that came alongside to stop your path is still working in your life. And as you go through your life, he'll keep on adding more things to it. If he ever see you get to a point where something is working that he can keep you now, he's going to keep you on that, going around and around in that circle, and you'll go around and around that circle for years until you realize there's something wrong with this circle. You understand? He'll keep you there, keep you feeling like you're nobody, keep you feeling like you don't have no presence to be here, keep you feeling like nobody don't want to listen to you, nobody don't hear what you got to say. Yeah, that's the enemy don't want to hear what you got to say. It's the enemy don't want to have people to listen to you. You got to get up and say, God, you gave me a purpose from my birth, from my mother's womb. You gave me a purpose. I know I dealt with a lot of pain. I know I dealt with a lot of agony, but God, what do you want out of my life, out of my life now? What do you want? But see, I'm going to tell you, you're coming through pain. It's the pressure, that rejection. A spirit of rejection is something that hits a lot of people. But those that have great ministry, rejection is going to be something you're going to drink a whole lot of time. But you got to know who holds your tomorrow. You got to know who's got your destiny in hand. And my question to you today, are you going to quit because what? Guess what? The rejection ain't going to go away. It's how you handle it. You bring that rejection under subjection. And I've learned, and I'm not going to say I don't cry now. I'm not going to say that things don't hurt me now. But I know one thing, God holds my tomorrow. And I'm here in Arizona now, and a lot of stuff is happening now, but God is on my side, and I have a lot to tell. And I thank God for this time that he allowed me to stay. In the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and I pray God I can be able to talk to you again and let you know it ain't over till God says it's over. And it's not done until God says it's done. In Jesus' name, God bless you.
Wow. There y'all have it. The one and only, the blessed, amazing, my amazing mother. She is awesome. Please subscribe, like this video. We pray this was a blessing to you all, and please contact her, reach out to her, and with the information that you see on the description. And we love you all. Hope you guys are blessed. Bye bye.